It's Good News Week.
Building community by building local internet. Welcome back to Good News Next Week, everybody. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com with the 61st episode of some of the ways that we are winning and solutions-oriented stories for the week of January 22nd, 2018. All our stories are submitted by you using hashtag Good News Next Week. And you've probably heard me maybe talk on the morning show that we're probably moving the family down to New Mexico in the year 2018 to be a little closer to some other family that's down there. Plus, we're kind of getting sick of being in the big Portland city here. So, of course, once you start to think about the move, you start to see that place in lots of stories. It seems as though New Mexico now pops up all the time in the stories we talk about on your morning Monarchy. But this is a good one. Craft brewing is brewing up well in New Mexico. Probably like a lot of states, they had a lot of rules that essentially kept it under wraps, and so just the big factory beer boys could essentially run the show. You can pretty much tell this story over any other type of industry. The big boys seek to keep out all other competition, or they'll just, of course, buy them all up, as has been happening a lot in the world of craft brewing. Lots of beer controversy surrounding that. It actually happened in my home state of West Virginia, where the limit in beer, the alcohol, was 6%. And that, for many, many years, essentially kept kind of the craft brew industry pretty much under wraps in West Virginia, because 6% alcohol maybe isn't that much alcohol if you're trying to brew your own. And again, ultimately, it's not really much of your decision how much alcohol somebody wants in their beer or doesn't want in their beer. You don't have to drink it. But that's the positive thing. If we want to be a real free nation, we are free to do and drink essentially whatever we want. Or, of course, like the mug I've got in the kitchen from the show you all know, says to alcohol, cause of and solution to all of life's problems. But ever since they changed the laws back in West Virginia, there is now an exploding craft beer industry going on there. And it is going on down in New Mexico as well. They're starting to have more and more places open, and not just in Albuquerque, and, of course, that being the biggest city. But it also, of course, makes jobs as well. I think this is one of the great things that kind of puts the lie to all the yap kind of politicians. They all go NIMBY and not in my backyard when stories like these pop up. So again, anything that we can do to make our own is essentially good, and essentially the positive way that we really want to try and head. That's what I talked about on the final episode of New World Next Week for last year. We want to look at DIY ways. We want to look at community and not conspiracy. Our cover story this week, Building Community by Building Local Internet, comes via our friend Katie Aguilera, who I believe is up here in the Pacific Northwest as well. Some cities aren't waiting around for Trump to gut net neutrality. They are building their own. And this takes us off to Fort Collins, Colorado. They're planning to build their own internet service utility, trumping the Federal Communications Commission and their move to extinguish net neutrality. Fort Collins joins a growing list of cities opting in to build their own internet and opting out of big telecom. And of course, big telecom has spent big telecom money to try and stop this from happening, even trying to preempt places by law from building their own internet. It's the same kind of things we see in cities where Nestle wants to stop you from being able to keep your own water. They want to try and make these laws to prevent you and preempt you. Oh no, states can't label their own food as to whether or not it has genetically modified. This is the sort of the ridiculous race now. But again, it doesn't take putting on funny costumes. It doesn't take smashing up shitty coffee shops with bricks or any of those ridiculous kind of dog and pony shows, and everybody puts on their costumes and they have a big fight and it's all a good time and nothing changes because you're still propping up the systems. It's only going to change when we walk away from all of that and build our own thing. And we'll continue talking about building our own thing. One other kind of extra internet note, maybe it's probably would be maybe lots of folks in Colorado. Once they built their own internet, they might all be hopping online and swarming all the Trump hotels with shithole reviews on Yelp. Now, this is pretty low-hanging fruit and low-level laws, but of course, turnabout is fair play, and those are the easy ways that, of course, real democratization of people and thoughts and ideas can really show who's got the shitholes and who doesn't. Our final story on this Good News Next Week, episode 61, takes us off to Washington, Iowa. And it's kind of a cute story. It's basically middle school kids going to a senior center and showing them virtual reality. Now, like many good news stories, someone's always going to be quick to say, no, this is terrible because they're just trying to put them in the hive Borg mind. And in some ways, maybe they are trying to do that. But I think this speaks in some ways to what Corbett and I were talking about last week with the minister of loneliness. Yeah, don't get a pet, don't try and make friends, don't get a hobby, don't hang out with friends and family or volunteer or any others. There are kind of real solutions to a lot of society's most pressing problems. Again, most of our deaths and injuries and illnesses are caused by things that we could essentially just avoid. I don't think I'm some kind of Pollyanna in ways. I don't want you to think I'm blowing a bunch of smoke on Good News Next Week episodes. If I didn't have this positivity, do you think I'd be messing around doing any of this? You wouldn't know me and I'd be in a bunker somewhere. Maybe I should be, but it's pretty much far too late for that. Far too vocal and far too known. And plus, I think, if I can quote that movie everybody likes, the more they tighten their grip, the more we're going to slip through their fingers, my friends. I've been making independent, non-commercial alternative media under the Media Monarchy banner for 12 plus years, and you've never heard an advertisement, you've never heard some crazy snake oil pitch, and you've never heard me wildly shift my stances every 3 to 7 years when some new political puppet comes along. We're independent, non-commercial alternative media. I like to think of myself as a media concierge, and I stream news, music, memes, and so much more Monday through Friday at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. I'm basically a radio guy. The joke I sometimes make is, hey, that crazy guy on New World Next Week, the really animated one on the right side of the screen? He has his own radio station. I think it's pretty cool. I think you might want to check it out. MediaMonarchy.com/listen. Love to see you. And of course, we can only keep doing this with your support at MediaMonarchy.com/support. These are the only things we are putting on YouTube, as we are putting everything else over on BitChute.com/MediaMonarchy. And yes, we're trying out some Mastodon and some Gab and some Minds and some of those other places. But for the most part, most everything's going to go down at MediaMonarchy.com. That's how we wrap up episode 61 of Good News Next Week. I hope that you are doing good and continue to think about some of the ways that we are winning in solutions-oriented stories, and send me some ideas about some of those solutions using hashtag Good News Next Week. Or you can always reach out to me, James at MediaMonarchy.com. I am James at MediaMonarchy.com. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and reminding you, as always, like Jello Biafra said, don't hate the media, become the media. Take care.
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato. Since 2005, Media Monarchy has covered the real news about politics, health, technology, and the occult, all remixed with music and media that matters. Go to MediaMonarchy.com/support and become a monthly subscriber so you can help keep independent, non-commercial, alternative media going and growing. Thanks.